obviously, we've heard the rumors. We've heard that people have been ferried to Guantanamo Bay. There are actual flight logs that I have been made aware of. I don't know who was on the manifest, because if I did, let's just say this, my life would have a shorter expectancy. So I really don't know. But I can tell you this, Sidney Powell was also there and has deposed Gina Haspel, and it appears that Haspel signed a confession and will testify, but also will have to step down as director of CIA. It's been reported that even some of the most, and I'm calling what they are, evilcrats, okay? EVILCRATS, evilcrats, were taken there too, and basically presented with the knowledge that has been provided to Trump's team, Sidney Powell, her other attorney, Mr. Wood. Obviously, there's multiple events taking place. Now, here's what I understand. If you know this, chime in, because I didn't know this. Sidney Powell is authorized to basically testify before a military tribunal, even authorized to call a military tribunal. Now, we've also got General Flynn and McElhenry talking about the fact that unless the president declares the Insurrection Act, which he has every right to do, and I'd remind people, if we don't have honest elections, we don't have a country anymore. And what's happened is that, thank God somebody in the National Security Agency provided enough documentation to make the case. Now, there will be no federal appeal, maybe 1 out of 10 that will go through. The question is, does it go to SCOTUS? And where is SCOTUS? Supreme Court of the United States. If it goes to SCOTUS with the amount of voluminous evidence, and they, by the way, had to sign for a bundle of documents. The bundle of documents was basically composed of, millions of pages of paper, transcripts that were obviously on computers, 35,000 hours, I'm told, of recordings. And every Democrat and Republican traders who had any type of business dealings with China are there, presented, and there's a lot of people panicking. D.C. is in a panic mode.
And the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, from the top down, they are really hacked off at our state legislatures about what's going on. And the reason I bring this up is because there are a lot of people that folks are not seeing that want to make a difference and are pleading with God and with others. Let's make a difference, because if we don't, we're all going to die, but some sooner than later, and some by, sadly, we don't want blood to be shed in the streets, but it could happen. So back to you, sir.
Well, one of the things, Doug, that's hard, and again, I'm on record so people can judge or not judge. I've never declared myself a prophet. I do not believe one. My own perception, this is important. My own perception of what I'm doing is I'm just a guy that got radically saved by a loving Jesus. And basically, I'm the most non-religious person. Doesn't mean I'm proud of any sin in my life. God knows I'm dealing with it and calling out to him. But Isaiah had unclean lips too, until God touched his lips. I'm finding that the amount of surrender in the contemporary evangelical world to the woke movement, which is nothing more than a communist soft sell now until it ends up in blood in the streets. 25 years ago, I said on talk radio on Coast to Coast when Art Bell was alive, we were talking about the coming Civil War. And there was a guy named Thomas Chittum who wrote a book called, I think, Civil War II, or something like the comment. I haven't read it for 20 years. But the thing that I want people to understand is Dimitri Duduman and others. And by the way, for the Q-File subscribers, let me segue here. We're sending out our final warning It's not the final warning, but anybody who subscribes to Q Files 2.0, $9.95 a month, gets the twice a week newsletter update. I wrestled with the Lord. I really did. I just couldn't get peace. I said, God, what's going on? What is the most important thing that I can share now with the people as we go on? Doug and I go on together. And it was Russia. And he said, the Russian bear is no longer in hibernation. It has awakened. Others have used that terminology. It has awakened with an appetite the West does not understand. And there it's food, ITS food, okay? The Russian bear. But I've always been a big picture guy. So here, in my opinion, civil war cannot be averted. Civil war is coming. You can't have all of the private interest groups, whether they're armed gangs, whether they're Chinese in here. There's 750,000 Chinese in the United States. And I'm talking military. This is not a xenophobic statement. It is problematic that obviously we are seeing escalations and standoffs with Russia on the oceans. I mean, they just said the other day they're going to ram our ships in the Sea of Japan. Okay, Vladimir Putin has shut down the Donald S. Cook 3 times. That's the state-of-the-art missile cruiser. That shutdown, Doug, sent shivers through Washington. During this week, the last week, Russia basically launched their Zircon missile, and whether they're boasting or not, but it's in the 9,000 kmph, kilometers per hour, which is 12,000 miles per hour. If you divide 60 into 12,000, you come up with that sucker's moving at about 200 miles a second. Okay? 200 miles a second. If you look at the international waters, I think we claim the United States 200 miles. That means a submarine can sit off either one of our coasts, and with let's just say within 2 seconds, any of those targets are taken out. Under the administrations of George Bush Sr., under Clinton, of George Bush Jr., the abomination of desolation, we'll talk about him too, how he's all of a sudden surfacing. Our defense establishment was diverted and perverted. When Obama made 300 plus flag officers, and I think they call them GOFOGs, generals and whatever Navy people are called, admirals, they had an acronym for that. Either swear allegiance to him or step down and take early retirement. Those were all the battle-hardened generals. Those were in the days that it wasn't necessity to make, the military, especially in ROTC, wear fake pregnancy belts and red high heels to basically acclimate them to a transgendered world. So the thing is that when Jesus said there's going to be earthquakes, and we'll get to that today too because it's really critical, in diverse places, watch the earthquakes center around perverse places because God is holy. We have Sodom and Gomorrah. That's why, listen, the attack on the Bible, I also said this, and this is critical for people to understand. The day would come when the Bible, God's Word, would be abandoned, and it would be, at some point, a capital offense to have one. Look at what's happening right now. These devils from the cauldron of hell in the political realm that they have chosen to operate, and I call them evilcrats, okay? Demon rats, evilcrats, and then the Republicans or Republic rats, which have sold us out. But look what's happening. They're trying to take away, as Michael Savage said, our borders, language, culture, and our culture of Thanksgiving. Isn't it interesting? These scumbags from the Center for Disease Creation, which is a private organization, the mouthpiece of that, Fauci et al., are trying to take away Thanksgiving and Christmas. Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to argue. I know when Jesus was born, but I love Christmas. I'm on record as saying if I have my way, every day would be Christmas, Every day would be Thanksgiving, and every day would be Resurrection Sunday. Because to the person that accepts Jesus, that is their point of forgiveness. It is their future guarantee of resurrection, and it's the most mind-blowing thing in the world to be thankful for. I love Christmas. I do. I love hearing joy to the world. I love, oh, come let us adore him. And the woke churches have abandoned Jesus. And I'll turn it right over to you. And Doug, we are already at civil war. The lack of civility in the Democrats, even when that Obama hideous entity was in the White House, we weren't calling for him to be murdered. We weren't calling for him to be nuked. We weren't calling on saying to this, everybody that voted for Obama, we're going to take you away in handcuffs, or worse. You have seen Hollywood come out of the fake facade or veneer and taken on Christians, taken on Jesus, with the joy behind of the view. And I should say it's not a view of life, it's a view to eternal damnation. These are my opinions. Wearing the horns of Baphomet and the true, if you will, the contempt for Christianity. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Democrats declared war on God. And so not only have they declared war on God, they've declared war on you. They've declared war on me. Doug, you're a new grandpa. You were a grandpa before, but you're a new grandpa. And I have grandchildren. But if we don't do something now, and I'm turning it right back to you, they have no future. And ladies and gentlemen, we watched as a Christian church, not all, but the majority sat silent as our little brothers and sisters in Jesus were butchered. And now they're telling you and I, Doug Hagman, we have to take the shot in the arm, which is equal to a shot in the head, with human stem cells and some unknown genetic component that has to be kept at 70 degrees, centigrade or 97, whatever it is, Fahrenheit. I'll tell you what that is later on the show, and people will be aghast because look, we're being told right now we can't buy or sell without it. That's already been projected by Bill Gates of hell, in my opinion. So the thing is that we could be, as Christians, thinking that's not valid to us at this point, and yet when we talk to in the show, remind me, write a note if you would, because you keep copious notes, to talk about the famine. That's not food shortages we're dealing with. It's the famine. And famine always comes when the people of God or the evil kingdoms turn away from God. And not only is there a famine for the word of God being preached in the pulpits of who is Jesus, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, but the denigration of the Son of God and the silence of Christians, that causes me, and somebody said, you're an angry man. You better believe I'm angry. I'm angry at the cowardice. I'm angry at false religious people. I'm angry at chinos, Christians in name only, and I'm especially in orbit with anger over the jellyfishians who have no background. If you've ever seen a jellyfish, it's just a goo of a colony of if you will, animals. They all conglomerate together and then they go with the flow. They just go with wherever it flows. We are at war with the devil. We are at war with his people, and Christians still want to go along to get along. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a road to hell. That's a road to hell.